I think in high pressure situations, you really can find your values too. Some people have to face this reality. Sometimes your values in life may not be great ones. A lot of values just become aspirational. They're not real. Every value has a negative dark side.
What are some steps that our listeners could take to start developing their values?
I think the first thing is
how do you know if something is not a value, or maybe it is, it's just that you haven't focused on it?
It's a good question. I think try to think about what's moments or stories, or, I heard someone in our room today said something really, really, really good, where it's like, think about like movies you watch, right? So how do you know something about, like when you watch movies, like think about some of your favorite scenes throughout movies. Like what got you excited about some of those scenes in movies, right? Is it, somebody mentioned today, it's, Harry when he's like, hey, I'm going to have to die, you're going to face Voldemort. Or is it when it's with Sam and Frodo go to, they're going to Mordor and realize like, Sam, we may not make the journey home, right? Like
that line in itself always just makes me cry.
I know, like it's stuff like that. Where like in that same movie, in the first Lord of the Rings, one of my favorite scenes is when Frodo is like going to go across, he's leaving everybody, and Sam sees him and he can't swim. But he literally is like, Sam is fighting across the water to go to Frodo, and he's like, I told Mr. Bilbo I wouldn't leave you, and he was like gonna die. He couldn't swim until Frodo lifted him out of the water, because that's how loyal he was to Frodo. He was like, no, I'm in this with you. You know what I'm saying? And I think for me, the value of that, so like that movie, why that gets me going and why I get really excited is because, man, there's something about a willingness for somebody to be in the trenches with you, knowing that it could lead to like, you're like, yo, I'm in it though, because I say, it's one of my favorite Bible verses, many claim an unfailing love, but a faithful man or woman who can find. And I think those things, that does something for me. But think about a movie, or think about, like last time, something that got you really upset. Sometimes we get really, you can like start to, why am I so mad about that? Well, maybe justice is a value, like seeing things done right by people. So you watch something and you see injustice happen and it just burns you up. And then you start to stop. Okay, why does that burn me up? Why am I frustrated with that? That could be a value. So I think try to think about moments where you get really excited, or things that maybe got you really down or frustrated, whatever it is, and try to evaluate that. I think those are moments that can actually help you figure out if something's a value or if it's not a value as well. Okay, so once you know your values, how do you actually live them out in high pressure situations? That's great. I think we heard that today. I think Adam Grant writes about that in his newest book about hidden potential, where he really talks about character is really like your values, like that are lived out in high pressure situations. I think what you have to do is, first of all, I think in high pressure situations, you really can find your values too. In high pressure situations, I tell people that in an organization, if an organization hasn't been around for a while, for a few years, a couple years, 2-3 years, that we don't do values, because a lot of values just become aspirational. They're not real. They're not what's really within the organization. It took us, when we first started doing ours, it took us an hour to come up with our values, because we just looked around and said, what do we value? And it's like, just look and you can see it. I think, first of all, if high pressure situations, if you've never seen them, I think if something is constantly collapsing, that may be an aspirational thing for you, but it's not a value of yours. I think values are actually seen like in high pressure like situations. You know what I'm saying? So for example, like empowerment. Empowerment is a value of mine. I say empowerment, it could be development, however you want to put it. But the thing about it, it's a value of mine, where I've been in high pressure situations where people who are very key people within the organization I'm leading have another opportunity. And I could counter that. I could, put together, a pay package and, a new title change that'll really take them to a new level. But when I really look at the situation, I've had this happen a few times where I looked at their situation they were getting, and I'm like, man, for them, this is a better opportunity for them. Even though I could have paid them more money, they would have got a different job, but it was going to be better for them, maybe for their family, stuff like that. And I was like, for me, that's a high pressure situation. I have to replace somebody who's really talented. But because empowerment and development, thinking about I want what's best for the individual, and I know if I take care of that, it'll take care of other stuff. In pressure moments for me, I've responded that way. So I know that's why it's a value of mine. So I actually think you find your values actually in tough situations.
That's interesting. I was actually going to ask you, do you think that you should form your values in calm waters or high pressure situations?
I think in high pressure situations, I think high pressure situations will tell you what you care about. And I think sometimes, you may, and I think not that every single time I respond perfectly, and that's, but if you never do that, like if you're like, oh man, like, a value of mine is like, I don't know, like patience, whatever. And like, I'm just saying that it's like patience, but dude, you're just always on one, no matter what. Like, you're not patient. It's like every time, like that may be what you aspire to be, but that's not a value. A value is what you live out. It is an act. It's a thing that plays itself into real life. And so I think that's a value of yours. And here's the other thing. A lot of times, some people have to face this reality. Sometimes your values in life may not be great ones. That's one thing that sometimes we all think our values are. Nobody wants to like think that they have like a negative value, right? Some people, you got like gossip is a value. You care about it because you do it all the freaking time. We don't say that. No, hold on. No, gossip, that's negative. No, but that's what you do. Remember, it's what plays out. And so I think sometimes people have negative values that they live out, but they never want to admit that, And sometimes I think we probably have more than we're willing to actually say.
What kind of situations do you find yourself in as a leader that make you not live out your values?
Interesting. I would say that when I'm not secure in who I am and I'm in a room with people that society would say are successful, I then begin to act out of character. And what I mean by act out of character, I begin to now find myself talking way more about like trying to have moments to share more of my accolades or share what I'm doing or how I could help or doing whatever, versus when I'm in a good place, I can just be in the conversation and just like sit there and listen. And man, if there's value I can add to the conversation, great. If there's not, I'm cool with just sitting there. That's when I'm in a healthy place, but I find myself at times when I'm not, that I will just be way more trying to engage in conversation, not to really add value, just so my voice can be heard and people can, deep down, oh, well, he's doing some impressive things and whatever. So I think that's when I see it play out the most negative for me.
What are some steps that our listeners could take to start developing their values?
Yeah, I think the first thing is what we like to call sovereign themes. And sovereign themes are stuff that you embody, and they happen even when you're not even trying to make them happen, right? You're a person who's a confidant, where you're not even trying to know information, but it's like people, they feel like they'll tell you, oh my gosh, I feel like I could tell you everything. And then like you got everybody's deep, darkest secret, and you really hold that like a vault. And you just naturally, you've always been that way or whatever. Or maybe for you're the person that, man, you just like, you're the reconciler, where, man, when people are at opposite ends, like something about you can bring people into the room and make them see eye to eye or work together. I think those are places where you're not even trying to do that, but it just naturally happens. I think sovereign themes are a good place to look. I think another thing in doing that is try to look at, like I said earlier, stories of good moments, bad moments of your life, moments where, man, you really got super excited, where you just felt alive. Like, I think there could be some values underneath there. Another thing is that there's so many, if you go, to our beautiful friend Google or our new friend Chat GPT, you can go in there and just type in, hey, give me a list. Do you have a list of values, right? And Chat GPT is so good.
Brene Brown's Dare to Lead list of values.
Brene Brown's Dare to Lead list of values. Shout out to Brene Brown. You could, you can go probably in Chat GPT. I've never done it, but you probably can go in there and says, hey, I kind of think this. I mean, you probably could write what your feelings are, and they probably be like, here's your list of values. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. But there's plenty of access. I would go get a bunch of value words, and then I would list them out. Like, list your top 10. Like, if you get a values list, go with your top 10, then break that top 10 down to 5. And like I always say, you should never have more than 5. But I actually think starting off, if you have 3, you're doing really well. Not only have a list, but be able to put a small definition you can remember. One of the things that we do here, and I would love for, if you're willing to share yours, to where, you have 3 values, but you have an axiom. That's one thing that we do here. We have axioms to everything that we kind of, we really do, kind of through that, because I think that it allows you to remember it. Those are moments where you're like, oh, like, not only do, for me, like, oh, like the idea of like empowerment, right? So for me, like the idea of empowerment, you know what I'm saying? It's like, give it away. Like, it's an old Red Hot Chili Pepper song, right? So when I think about power, it's the idea of like, when empowerment's like, give it away, like give power away. Okay. So for you, like, I know you have 3 values, or you have 3 axioms to it. Like, do you mind sharing those and sharing the axioms to them?
Mine are still kind of developing out. I have 3 though. So the first one is beauty, which the axiom is hues of hope. Mostly.
So artsy. Wow.
Okay, but these are all in stop. No, these are all in process, and you could ask me tomorrow, and every single one of these could be
But I actually like
changed,
that fits you.
But
though.
the foundation would be the same.
Yes, but hues of hope actually fits you though.
Oh, that's kind of maybe I will keep that one since it's externally
you.
also confirmed.
Yeah.
No, I use that for beauty because it kind of encompasses what it means to face the current reality, but also imagine what it's like, where things could be. And
I want to say that, and why I can attest this, working with and being around Bri for the last 5 years, is this is a prime example of beauty, of it being formed in like both a positive and a negative, where there were some things that really impacted you in a negative manner when it comes to that, but also you've always been a person who genuinely really just like, whether if it's design or if it's art, it's fashion, all types of stuff, like things that are just like, that are naturally just beautiful things, you always have been drawn to those types of things. And so that's where so that's why I see it as such a value, because it's not, I think because, where it's impacted you, and seeing hope on the other side of it, but also if it wasn't like a negative thing, you just always have had an eye or care for things like that. So that's really cool.
And it also was birthed from a place of pain, in the sense of like, when I was in very like painful situations as a kid, I was the kind of kid who would like sit in the little cardboard box and be like, what can I create inside of this thing that will give me hope for the future?
Yeah, I love it.
But I think it's a lot more redeemed now. And I will also add that even in high pressure situations, it's something that I think has shown that I cared about, in the sense of like, if we're doing a session and I'm like, the design is a little bit to the left and we have 10 minutes till the session starts. Poor Lavana. I'm calling it Lavana. This is 2 inches to the right.
Dude,
I need you to reprint. I need you to figure it out. I need you to fix it. I need you to reprint it and figure out how to get it to me in literally 30 seconds. Dude. And she does her thing, because it is a value of hers too.
It is.
But yeah, it definitely shows. The next one would be wisdom. I'm going to play with the axiom of this, but the axiom is shades of gray. So it's basically how to navigate the world of gray. I think that I bring a lot of discernment to things that can typically be black and white. And then the last one is resilience, which the statement is carry your weight, which I've kind of already talked about a little bit. It really matters to me, and something that I'm trying to grow into, but I think is also something that I already am, as far as having a good understanding of what it looks like to carry my responsibility and take ownership for who I am and who I'm supposed to be. So,
And I think that one of the things I'll say too with values is that I think at different seasons of life, those values get embedded inside of us more. So like, even when you're talking about resilience, where it's like, it's a value of yours because there's just, it's kind of what made you really good at the sport that you did. You just had I was willing to just tough it out and get through, you just had the ability and just like to remain and build and do that. But as you've gotten older now, you're realizing, man, there's moments where like personally haven't carried that weight like from my, like where from what, like you're saying, like, man, carrying my own weight for what I have to do. But that doesn't mean it's not a value. It's just getting embedded deeper in you in a different phase of life. And what'll happen? You get older, there'll be another phase where that value will go deeper, because that value will be a different phase of life where it needs to go there. And so I always tell people, it's not that once you have that value, like, oh man, you have it perfectly. It's just you have to go through and experience things, and then it just keeps getting, more and more and more and more. Like I tell people, like those types of things, like disruption is a value of mine, but disruption is but my axiom for it is like peaceful disruption, because like I care about the idea of, I'm not disrupting for the sake of disrupting. I'm disrupting because I think things they need to be disrupted because they're out of order. And so I want to bring it to where it can bring actual peace. You know what I'm saying? That word peace in Hebrew, shalom, where the way things should work. But in that, though, the older I get, that has played itself out in different ways. When I was a teenager, it was in the basketball world. It was just disruption. And then I went and in my 20s, started doing a basketball skills academy when no one was doing this and no one was doing sports. It just disrupted, and coaches were fresh. But there was nobody really getting kids better, giving kids opportunities in the city we lived in who wanted to play basketball. All they had was baseball or football. So why can't they? And then we just disrupted that. And then, it went, and then it just keeps adding more and more. But I think that just happens, as you get older.
Yeah. And I think as an example of everything we've talked about too, like, I'm also 24, and I'm like paying the cost of how I operated in the word resilience when I was 17.
Yeah.
Like I'm 24 literally with the back of like an 80-year-old.
Facts.
Because I didn't stop, and I was like completely disconnected from my body in order to keep going, keep showing up. And it's like, if I weren't to have taken the path of trying to redeem that aspect emotionally, like that's how I would be treating our team now. Whereas now there's a little bit more of a navigation between like, hey, you don't need to carry that right now.
Yep.
Or there's like, hey, I need you to look at me. Yes, you have to do this, and it's going to be hard. But I'm able to navigate the tension much more. Whereas in the past, I would just be anxious, and I would just be like, you got to do it. Like, this is what we're supposed to do, without having any true leadership through the chaos of it all. Yeah.
And what's interesting about you saying that is, I think as people begin to help you and know like your values as well, why I think it's important, I'll say this, with your team, for you to let your team know, because I think then people around you can help you with that. Because if people, let's just say that you had some, healthier leaders around you, or even now, like, this is resilience, is one of the values of yours. Now when they're seeing you, because if people were able to see you in a different way and knowing that, saw that value, that toughness about you, that resilience about you, they could have redirected that too, to say, hey, now you need to have the toughness to trust that you're not going to lose your spot, but you actually need to show resilience, and the resilience now getting turned to the fight to take care of your body. You know what I mean? Like, no. Even though my anxiety or my fears want me to go do this, but in an athletic world, many times that just thrives for people. They are like, well, you're willing to kill yourself for it, but then it's just like, cool. But now, you say at 24 years old, or at times, you could have even been probably even better than what you were, because you're playing hurt most of the time.
Right.
And so I think those are just ways I think you can redirect actually that value. And so in a way, because I think every value has a negative dark side. You know what I'm saying? Every value has a negative dark side. So I think it's just also having, like you said, wisdom to apply. That's the big thing. You have to have wisdom to actually apply your values in every situation in life. So
yeah, I will say one that I feel like I'm missing, which maybe falls into something else, is I was thinking about kind of the saying of like, the saying, stop and smell the roses. I was like, stop and smell the roses in gunpowder, because it's kind of getting to like parallel presence. Because I do feel like when I'm not like present and paying attention to what's happening around me, and actively noticing the things that I'm seeing, the things that I'm thinking about, and if I notice something, the roses or the gunpowder, and don't go out of my way to actually point that out, I feel like I'm violating that. As I get older, that's something to me where I'm like, I feel like that breaks my heart. Like I literally feel like I'm violating a value, but I'm trying to figure out how to tie that in, or if I would even go that direction again. That's very like 10 minutes of thinking about
It is. But actually, I like that, though. That may be a title of one of our sessions. Roses and gunpowder.
Yeah. Wait. That's what we need to do with the...
Yeah. That's our next one. Our next one, roses and gunpowder.
Okay. If it ain't my value, we got it somewhere else. That'll be fun. What is like your most embarrassing thing that you've done out of like wanting to, when you haven't shown up the right way and you're kind of wanting to be liked or whatever? What's the thing that at night you're like, I can't believe I did that, or I can't believe I said that?
Wow, man, I probably have been so buried in my, it's probably
your shame.
In my shame,
like,
I don't even know. Let me think. God, that I've done something where I've acted out of like.
Do you want me to tell you mine?
Yeah, you go.
Thinking?
I'm thinking.
Okay,
go for
so
it.
I really can't reveal a lot of the details because it's highly confidential.
All right.
But one time, it's so embarrassing for me. Person probably doesn't even remember. You might. We were at dinner with somebody and we were talking about a very famous person. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about our opinions about this person's spouse. We have strong opinions about this person that I do believe is very fact-based. This person who's very close with those people was like, that's true. I basically responded and was like, I knew it. Like, that's kind of, though I don't know if those were the exact words, that's basically what I said. I think, I'm not kidding you, that's my Roman Empire. I think about that once a day. Because that was a violation of, like, wisdom for me. Because it was like, I actually don't really care that much.
Yeah.
Like, why did I need to, like, portray that I was right about this person not being a good person?
Yeah.
And it was a very split second. Like, I don't think anybody was really paying attention. This person probably doesn't remember. But every day I literally think, like, I probably need to reach out to her and apologize. Because she probably thinks I'm like the most like gossip centric, like I think about this all the time.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah.
God, I'm trying to like. I'm really trying to think about this question because what I don't want to do is like, I mean, I have so many different like embarrassing like moments in life, and I think my response was because it was like it was maybe more shameful. Like I think about when I was like a kid and it was a basketball game. I was at a camp and it was the overtime game of like it was in the playoffs of this camp, and so like if you win, so you went to sudden death, and so it was sudden death. And it's like, first basket wins. So I'm a coach's kid. I'm looking at it's a player who's a camp counselor. So they're just in there just getting their money and just kind of reffing kids. They're not really thinking serious. I'm a coach's kid. So I look at the ref. I know in a jump ball, whichever direction the ref points, that's the direction you're going. So this guy gets up there, and normally though you go opposite. You go opposite of where you're facing. So if a guy's facing on the left and the right, you're going opposite direction, right? You're going to the direction you're facing. That's where your basket's at. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him, and he points, and I was like. He's like, skin's going this way, shirt's going this way, skin's going this. So he was pointing, but even though my guy was on that side, so the guy tips it, I get it, and I just go full court, lay it up.
It's worse when you just go all in.
Dude, all in, lay it up, super hype, and I hear everybody, like, I'm thinking they're cheering, they're yelling, no. And I made the layup, we lose, our team doesn't go. And I spaz. I go to I'm like in the third grade, fourth grade.
Oh my God.
I go to this player and I like literally start cussing him out. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You pointed this way. Da, 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 da. Just going off and stormed out the gym. Now you gotta realize my dad, this is a huge camp. My dad's at the University of Tennessee. There probably was 1,000 kids at the camp. My father's one of the assistant coaches, so here's his son acting like an idiot because I was embarrassed. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt like, man, like this dude made me look stupid, all that. And I went up there and cried. My dad was like, my dad comes up there and was like, he starts talking to me, and I was like, and I'm just blaming, and I'm just like, yo, da 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 da, whatever. He pointed this way, whatever. And then my dad was trying to do it. which you don't respond that way. So you're going to go apologize to him. You don't respond that way. And I'm like, I'm not apologizing to him. F him. I'm not apologizing to him. Again, I'm in the 4th or 5th grade. And my
imagine
father,
if that was Jalen.
I know. My father, oh my God. My father was like, you are going to go apologize. And then that's the moments when my dad's 6'4", 250 pounds. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm going to go apologize.
In what?
Yeah, no, like I am going to go apologize to this guy. So I went and did that. But it was just like this idea. And I think when I look back on it, yeah, it made me look bad. But I even think the apology to me was like, I didn't understand. My father was telling me, now I knew what my father was telling me. Hey, it was how you responded, but it was more of like, I was thinking like, man, I had to go apologize to this guy because of like, you were right, I was wrong. And it was like, no, because inside it didn't feel authentic. Because I'm like, no, he literally messed up. But it wasn't, that's what my dad wasn't making me apologize for. But for me, I was apologizing, dude. I felt like I violated my conscience as a 4th or 5th grade. I'm like, this dude's freaking, so I got to go tell him he's right. Like, he's not right. But that was what my father was actually saying. So I never forget that moment. That's one of those moments where even if I think about it now, I tell the story now, but I still I cringe at oh my God, I cannot believe it.
And that happened when you were in 3rd grade.
3rd grade is horrible. So,
oh my gosh. Yeah. I was just going to point out the time that we were at a table with executives of a major company. Now, mind you, I'm 24, so occasionally when everyone's in their small talk mood.
Oh my god.
Okay, no.
Here we
when
go.
Everyone's let me set the scene.
Go for it.
When everyone's in their small talk mode after a long day of work, of course, I have a lot of serious leadership questions I want to hear about. I'm not going to do that because I can read the room. Everyone's tired. They're just trying to chill. They're talking about their favorite actors, actresses, music, and I'm like, I don't know who you were talking about. Yeah. I literally have no idea what any of you guys are talking about because I'm of a different era, right?
Yep.
Out of nowhere, I don't even know why you did this or how this came up. Out of nowhere, he's like, Bri loves Timothée Chalamet. Let me say, I don't love Timothy. You watch Timothée Chalamet videos more than I do, and that was the irony and why I was so embarrassed. Because then, right after you say that, there's everybody next to me who's like, "My daughter loves Timothée Chalamet. She thinks he's so cute," and I'm like, I do so much to be viewed as credible. And that's why it hits me. That's why it hurts my feelings.
There we go.
That's the deeper why. Okay. But also, there's no reason that you had to do that when it's a straight up untrue.
No, hold on.
It's not
Stop. Let's back up. Now, first of all, I'm glad you did the deeper work to realize that it's.
I know why it embarrasses me, but that's not the point.
Well, I think that is the point because I think that if you are valuable, your actual opinion, your opinion and things are incredibly important. And I think if you really knew that, it wouldn't have impacted you at the way that it did. Only reason why I said that.
Yes, I agree, but I agree with you.
But let me just start off by saying this, Bri. I am sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize.
I apologize. That it actually hurts your feelings.
No, it didn't. It didn't hurt. It didn't hurt my feelings. Let me be clear. This is really just this embarrassed me.
I think it did because this is the 3rd or 4th time you're bringing this up.
No, it's just it was awkward. It was so awkward.
I think it was awkward for you.
No, it was awkward because then people are literally like, my daughter thinks he's so cute.
And
are you
don't?
Gonna be? No, I've never told you that. I've literally never told you that. I think he's hilarious. I think his high school videos are hilarious. Mm-hmm. But I'm not just I love Timothée Chalamet, and that's how they portrayed it. And so it was also there are so many things that I love in this world that you could have been like, Bri loves this.
That's
and
fair.
Timothée Chalamet is so far, and that's what I said. I laughed and I was like, I can't believe you just said that because that's the 1,000th thing that I've paid attention to. But it was just really funny.
Next time what I'll do is I'll tell them your favorite podcaster who you think is so cute. I'll talk
don't do that. Don't say that. Don't even say that on. Okay, don't say that on here for real.
I'm not gonna say that.
That will actually probably get past to that person if you were to do that. So don't do that.
Oh man. All right. Well,
but they probably wouldn't know, so that's fine.
But you would want them to notice it.
No. I'm saying if you said that at the table of executives, they probably wouldn't know.
No.
Though they might. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyways.
All right.
Great talk.
Good talk. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Leave us a review. Leave us a review, because if you leave us a review, we can start bringing guests on. And that would be a dream one day.
Yes.
Not a priority right now,
Yep.
but let's work towards it together.
Let's do it. Until next time, keep writing the rules.